Hi friends, artificial intelligence is the buzzword of modern era. Everybody, right from students to professionals, are very much concerned, anxious and inquisitive about how AI is going to change the modern world. So here we have got an expert to discuss about the medical science manifestations and implications of AI. And the expert we have got today is none other than Dr. Shibu Vijayan, who is a leading public health expert who is also well versed in technology in the public health sector. Dr. Shibu Vijayan is an alumnus of the 1988 MBBS batch of Toronto Medical College. He then did his Master of Public Health from the prestigious Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Science and Technology. He has worked in several countries as a WHO consultant of tuberculosis. He was in charge of the tuberculosis control program of WHO of India. He later worked as field epidemiologist in Ethiopia and several African countries. He was also a consultant of PATH, and currently he is working as the medical director of Cure AI, which is a startup organization which is focusing on artificial intelligence. Dr. Shibu has contributed a lot by publishing research on the technological aspects in the field of diabetes, in the field of tuberculosis control, and so many other areas. So welcome, sir, to our discussion today.
Hello.
A lot of doctors are worried about what AI is going to do to the medical sector. And so many people are worried that they may even lose their job and AI will actually hijack the medical sector in toto. Do the doctors need to be worried about AI? What's your take on it, sir?
And I think doctors need to be concerned, not be concerned about AI. They need to be aware about AI. I think most of this fear of actually losing job or getting replaced is coming from there. But we are not that there. So AI is simply data actually. So we know that we work with a lot of information daily. So it does make a system wherein this information what is available in the public domain or even in medical literature or even patient management behaves like a human being and actually throws up kind of logical impressions which is kind of scientifically captured from scientific literature and then help us in aiding decision making, improving the quality of care. All this has a quality check, and also I'm saying so the concern about getting replacement is slightly I would say we off track at this moment, but it's a matter of understanding this domain well and how it functions, which is I think partly I also blame the industry who are in the AI domain. The explainability part of it is not that clear at this moment, and how they are utilizing that part. They're kind of serving that part to the larger medical community has also to be graduated to a level where both these parties come to the same table and all hands on deck for actually developing and designing. So we are seeing such things happening. So for example, when I am coming to the later part of the conversations, I'll also explain that how multifaceted domains are actually coming together. Like, for example, doctors getting trained in engineering and AI sciences, and then they are contributing. So I think we are not. So to answer your question, Dr. Arun, we are not at that stage to be concerned, but we also need to be part of this conversation. I think that is something which doctors will also kind of take a lead and is a key stakeholder in this place. So they are the one who is actually dealing with the patient. So they know the patient's sufferings and the pain and the disease pathology part of it. So and patient workflow. So what by and large the AI is trying to do is that how do you improve this patient workflow? How do you make the patient experience better? So in that journey, I think the key stakeholder is doctor has a role, and it's continue to be having a role. But the concern is slightly off track. But we need to talk about it.
My next question is, sir. Nowadays, there is a focus on competency-based medical education. The Indian medical graduate is expected to graduate after having acquired a set of competencies, which include a lot of skills related to diagnosis, patient care, communication, doing procedures, etc. So with AI coming to medical sector, do the doctors have to be trained in a new set of skills, technological skills? And what sort of training may be necessary to be imparted to these doctors?
As of now, because see, the medical knowledge is so vast, like starting from the basic understanding of the human anatomy, physiology, pathology, and the disease progression, and then coming to the actual diseases and how it pans out. It's a so when a patient is being seen by a doctor, so a lot of actually neural networks flow in their mind to make a logical conclusion from derived from investigations from the patient signs and symptoms. How do they kind of what they elicit from the patient, and then arrive at a conclusion, which is with options. So which is a natural process. So on the other hand, what AI does is that to help the doctors in synthesizing this in a way which is very easy. So we don't need to grapple around 100 reports. So all the reports will be synthesized and summarized in a way that so that we can arrive at a decision. So probably a differential diagnosis list will be available. Then the doctor need to apply his mind, seeing the patient, and then come. So coming back to your question about specifically about the skill set. As of now, these are all very simple as a Google thing. So if you look at all the medical Gemini, or even the Pad one from Microsoft, is also designed in a way that it has, because that's how the technology. So every technology, how did we crack the mobile? So we all know that mobile is something like a needed assistance for now, right? So it started from very basic analog stuff to now a much more actually kind of enhanced stuff. So every user interface is being built in a way that users can easily not deviate from an existing behavior. It is included in the existing behavior of like and asking a question and getting a summary. So what skill required is we also need to understand what question need to be asked. So your response from a computer, even if it is simulating like a human being also need to ask the right question to get the right answer, right? So your question framing skill is something which you need to. It's not like a Google saying, okay, Google somebody's name, or Google some places thing. We can even conversation. So now the new the long language models, which is again massive millions and trillions of text has been input in developing that computer models, wherein you can even ask like ask doctor, I am having, like for example, if I am asking, it can even learn Dr. Arun's patterns of prescription, how Arun arrived at a clinical decision when you are interacting with the patient, and your prescription patterns. And after some point in time, it also kind of behave something similar to Dr. Arun. So that customization is possible. So all this foundation, so they call it, as the engineers call it as foundation model, which have millions of data. Then you customize accordingly. So there is a platform already made. It's pretty much like a vehicle, like a petrol vehicle has a system. Then you pay for other, maybe for more power, more comfort within the car. So something similar to that thing. So you have a basic machine which actually gives you, which captures all the purpose of the information, and then you on the top of it you customize it to that level. So almost all the applications are designed like that, from a foundation to a customized way. So in that sense, there is no rocket science required. There is no additional skills, which is, I'm not anticipating a huge change in existing behavior. It will be within the existing set of skills. A medical student or a doctor can actually kind of behave better. So I would say a digitally enabled AI-powered doctor versus a basic doctor will have huge difference in approaching the patient, huge difference in delivering the quality services, huge difference in knowledge acquisition also. And they have a quality of life also on the side, because if you're seeing in a cluttered outpatient department, if you're seeing thousands of patients and spending less than a minute, I don't think that we are doing justice to that community who are actually coming with a lot of expectation to actually get a quality services. That will get decongested to a 30-minute conversation with a 30 meaningful patient to be seen by a consultant of that status. So in that way, they also get a lot of their own individual living space in the world of digitally assisted AI-powered assistance.
That's really comforting, sir.
Yeah.
Then coming to the patient point of view, one of the biggest problems here we face is enormous patient load. And especially when a patient is coming with, like, say, a cerebrovascular accident or a myocardial infarction, the time lag from reaching the hospital to receiving an intervention, That is a big problem. Maybe a lot of technical issues in between, going to a CT scanner, getting the scan done, getting that interpreted by the radiologist, then the scan has to reach the consultant, and the consultant has to take a clinical decision and then decide on the intervention. So it may take a long time. And during this time period, the golden hour would have elapsed. So would AI help in some way to bridge this problem, to make services available at a faster pace to the patient, especially during emergencies?
Absolutely, you kind of nailed it in a correct way. So, what does these are all information, right? I'm starting from my home. I met with an accident. I'm actually these are times points, right? I mean, at 4:30 I met with an accident. At 5 o'clock I am in the casualty. I mean, 5:30 I have done my CT scan. So likewise, these are all time motions, right? Your time stamped into your activity and motion. So there are time motion studies in hospitals to improve the efficiency. And even if you look at Trivandrum Medical College, the first point I would say that if you would want to design a program to optimize the patient workflow so that the turnaround time of intervention is need to be reduced so that there will be better patient outcomes. First, what ML or the AI or ML machine learning look at the existing data. They look at actually what is happening as a situation and look at the data of like when the patient arrived. There will be millions of patients might have been arrived over the last 3-4 years. And they understand that this is the average amount of delay and maximum delay happens at which point. So that is where the intervention. So if the delay is actually for waiting for the CT scans to be done, then we can actually come back to and that is information which we probably know because 80% of the patients are stuck at there, not at this point. Then you probably go to your authorities and say this is where we are actually struggling because of availability of the machine. So that's probably then we'll say okay, let's look out for other facilities around, maybe a PPP model of engaging private facilities to be done. So this is just one example. So likewise everything. So I'll just say, so good that you asked. Like I mean, I come from a company where we have even AI-enabled workflow for stroke. So if the patient lands into the hospital, then the patient takes a CT scan to rule out whether that stroke is actually, thrombolytic stroke or even hemorrhagic stroke. It differentiates within 2 minutes whether this is hemorrhagic or thrombotic. And what does it do is, other than this thing, it also actually escalates into the workflow. So if the radiologist is actually had to read 100 scans per day, this prioritize and bring it to the top of the list. So, most of the occasions, 80% of the investigations are going to be novel, right? And only 20%. So within that 20%, how do I prioritize my 20%? So prioritization is another use case. So the moment you have the information, maybe the emergency physician in the emergency department will have that in your mobile, right? So you know that there is an AI report come. And the moment that AI report triggers the radiologist also look into that and then say, hey, this is the intervention you need to be doing. So the patient intervention time lag is being significantly reduced. Otherwise, it would have been actually kind of you'll be losing a lot of time. In fact, we have done some certain studies in some of the hospitals in Kerala. So we found that there is even the patient reaches in time, there is almost 1.5 hour delay within the hospital to get. There is no system efficiency thing here. There is most of the time like simple factors like the timely CT scan doing, maybe the ambulance is not arrived in the right time. So I think there is a lot of workflow optimization which helps. These are all not medical science. This is actually processing time optimization to actually help the patient. So which is one of the best use case which I have seen. Not even without AI also, if you look at there are processes could be optimized if you look at your data what is telling you.
Okay, that's again something good news for the patients also. Another very important concern is regarding the use of AI in radiology, because AI can be used for detecting things probably which a junior radiologist may not be able to understand and things like that. So one important concern is, actually what I understand is that you are training the AI by feeding them with a lot of information, helping them to detect patterns. Will this AI instrument be able to detect patterns which it has not been trained in? Or rather, can this AI hallucinate and come forward with new information, de novo?
There are the model which typically medical image training. So medical images could be pathology, medical images could be radiology, medical images could be photographs of lesions in the mouth, or even the thyroid protrusion is a medical image. Like for your retinal image is a medical image. So there is a lot. Your skin color is a medical image. Your face, representation is a medical image. At some point in time, you can actually probably look at the patient face and say you look depressed, or you are actually probably dull. It could be an adverse reaction of drugs. So there are examples of tuberculosis drug actually creating depression and mental illness, which was recognized by doctors by seeing the photograph or video of the patients, and that's a different story. But again, essentially the training process, just explain how it is trained. So I'm coming from a radiology image interpretation company. What they did was, so all the artificial intelligence or machine learning relies completely on data. So now we need to train them on, okay, this is a normal X-ray, this is subnormal. First we need to say this is X-ray. So there are millions of images goes and say this is a chest X-ray. So we should not interpret a leg X-ray or a limb X-ray as a chest X-ray, because machine does not know what the body part is. So we need to reinforce the machine. This is what it is. This is the body part. Then it goes to say this is normal X-ray. Then this is abnormal X-ray. Within that abnormal X-ray, each finding we label it and say, if you see a streak or line like this thing, this is infiltration. So such infiltration is reinforced 100 times. Then, for example, cavity. This is cavity. This is consolidation. So for every finding, there has to be millions of X-rays. So after some point in time, so I'm talking about machine learning, which is a data labeled and supervised. So we look at whether the data, the outputs coming up. Let's say I'm saying this is cavity. As an AI scientist, probably I look at whether this output is coming as a cavity also, because that's labeled as cavity, and that is somebody is supervising. Then unsupervised is actually dumped with millions of data. So there will be neural networks which actually say, if you see this pattern, that's more likely to be cavity. So it learned on its own. Like, so there is some sort of thing happening. There is something still black box, which we don't know. Even AI scientists also don't know. I don't think that everything is black box, but there's a certain element of black box which is unexplainability is there. So that is how it is trained with millions of data. So you said if it is representable, so representability or repeatability. Let's say if it is being done in an AI algorithm for chest X-ray interpretation done with the Kerala data, whether it will functions in UP or in Bihar or in, let's say, in Uganda or whatever it is. So there comes the value of additionality of data. So more the merrier. There is no kind of hard, threshold value of say, oh, if you cross 10,000 data set, you are going to be having a wonderful algorithm. That is one reason you also see a lot of algorithms news in the public domain. So they cracked an algorithm. These are all high school, I would say, assignments for data scientists. They can make algorithms, but the robustness of information going inside make it repeatable, replicable in population. Diversity of information coming into that will make it much more robust. On the hallucination part, it hallucinates. So that is where I'm still saying the value of any medical image or interpretation is still at a triaging level, not at a confirmatory level. The hallucination comes from of late we have seen there are long language models, which is textual information going into. So long language model also feed into this thing, feed into image recognition also. I don't know the actual engineering magic behind it, but again, there is a way to actually use long language model to further enrich your existing algorithm. But there we have seen hallucinations. In positive hallucination and negative hallucination, I would probably say positive hallucination in a way that there are certain findings which are not trained the algorithm. Specifically, we are not inputted that information to train the algorithm just to call out certain conditions. But on surface, it throws out that as a finding, which is good. But on the other side, which also throws out something which is not intended to be called out, or there is zero finding of that actually in the clinical in that clinical situation. It's being this hallucination comes from a bias also. Like, let's say if you are training the data set with a lot of female information or male information, sometimes when it see a huge bulky patient, then it will probably assume I am seeing a mass. So there is a soft tissue mass in front of this thing. So these are examples of hallucination. For example, if I am wearing some ornament which has beads, and it might not, though we have trained that as artifacts, sometimes it hallucinates as nodules, lung nodules. So these are some examples of hallucinations. So hallucination is not coming out of the blue, it's getting misinterpreted something which is already there as something else. And which largely come with a lack of diversity of information in the algorithm. So that is where more the merrier. The chances of getting it incorrect or false positive and false negatives coming out of it will be minimal if you train with more diverse data sets.
As a mental health professional, my concern is about deep fake and such things, creating an atmosphere of mistrust among human beings, especially youngsters, students, adolescents. They may be able to adapt to the fast progressing changes in AI. But maybe the elderly population, the 60 plus population, especially in Kerala, we have got a significant number of elderly population staying alone, not having a positive contact with their own children, not abreast with the rapid changes in technology. So maybe if they receive a video or an image of somebody, their own image perhaps, which has been manipulated and artificially created by these kind of systems, won't it adversely affect the mental health of the elderly population? That is one of the concerns which a lot of mental health professionals have been sharing with me. I would like to get your expert opinion.
It's a very valid question. So one thing we also need to ask, we are in the highway of innovations with a lot of AI thing, a lot of new algorithms coming in. Deepfake is I would say is the beast in that in the highway, because a lot of traffic is in that way. So unfortunately, a few months back or 1 year back, there wasn't any such kind of broader guidelines. How do you regulate it? Because it's pretty much like I would say that if you don't have a traffic rule system and you allow a number of vehicles to enter into that, there is no checks and balance of to be traffic control. Things will go haywire. So this deepfake actually is a bad example in that, and that also triggered the countries and regulatory system to actually come to the boardroom and then have the discussion. How are you going to actually address it? And there is no answer for it. I mean, for that matter, they came heavily on deepfake, and this deepfake was something almost all the countries. European Union started with first. If you look at all this AI and digital innovations from a regulatory standpoint, the European Union is the one who kind of defined the global standards. Both from a, I mean, they put guardrails, I would say. So that is where deepfake has been called out as an issue to be kind of withdrawn from the research part of it, except for research. But from a deployment part, they clearly said, okay, this can't go like that to the public. We need to have some checks and balances before it is being produced. But broadly, this is an evolving place. Even 6 months before, we didn't have a global guideline on AI in health. ICMR has came back with ethical guidelines of AI in research, AI research, which also sets broader data standards, what can be shared, what could be done. Broadly, WHO set recently, I mean, again 6 months back, guidelines which talks about explainability part of it. If an AI company sets out an algorithm, let's say for image recognition of just X-ray image recognition, we need to be able to say that what is it, what is the proportion of representation in that, how many Indians, is it 90% Indians, 10% is Africans. That also gives confidence whether this country is equally represented. That also gives comfort to the physician, right? Okay, if I know that okay, this is a foreign algorithm, it might throw up some negative thing, means some unwarranted thing to me. It might affect my decision, so I need to be understood. Okay, how you customize it to my. So from a physician's healthcare provider standpoint, we need to address that. We ask that questions to the manufacturers. They should be in a position to explain that okay, this is how it is being developed. These are the standards and which we clear. These are regulatory process which we clear. Coming back to the regulations, so the best checks and balance for medical devices is again CE certification, because this also is software as a medical device. AI is also been defined as like this. FDA certification, FDA is very rigid on certifying this thing. Especially they would want US evidence to do that. India, I would say, coming back to India, we are not super rigid in that thing as of now. But if you look at there, India AI mission has been set up. So we have strong guidelines in position, but we don't have systems to kind of get it vetted or approved. Government of India is now working with IISc Bangalore and setting up that system. So that process of checking whether this algorithm, whether the claim by the manufacturers are correct or not. And it's something similar to every algorithm need to get new versions. So how do you check the quality of new versions, whether it is throwing up tantrums and all this. So I think it's an evolving place where we need to, carefully watch. Some things are not defined clearly. It will get defined as we move on, but we are in the right direction.
So one final question, sir. People are concerned about how AI is going to affect the education sector. Parents are worried about chat GPT use among children and adolescents. So if a child is given an assignment, it just resorts to the help of chat GPT, who performs the assignment. And even if you want to write a novel or even a poem, of course, these kind of assistance is available. So how is it going to affect the creativity of human beings? Because this concern was always there, even when computer came and mobile came. How is it going to affect human creativity? It was a big question, but we know that with the advent of these devices, human creativity always gravitated to the next level, and it proved to be something positive. What's your take on this? How is it going to affect the development of the coming generation?
Interesting question. I was also grappling. So this took me back to my 80s in schools and colleges. When I even in my medical college and I was studying here, that time the PhD students of doing medicines, they have to go to Delhi AIMS library to take some books and read from there and take actually kind of notes and do something similar in go to Mumbai or best library or medical library and then come back and now I also seen that then we are just googling and looking at PubMed and all these things and summarizing it. So this is I would say in the current scheme of things, ChatGPT is a wonderful tool for summarizing. It is not graduated to the level of what is available in the web to be summarized. If you ask the right question and there are new versions coming which will also have summarizing thing. So I would also want to actually segregate into two things. One is on the assignments thing. It's a good tool to have. Like we used to have kids used to Google and then find out answers, and we need to. So it's on us as parents or teachers to help the students. How do they kind of blend well with the technology? So that is something we should not discourage them in using it. We should also find, as I would say, as teachers, we would also need to actually look at that. What is it throwing up? For example, if I were to actually kind of before coming to this thing, I can ask like ChatGPT, like I'm going to be for an India. In fact, I've done that. I mean, to be very honest. And what kind of things need to be addressed, what the questions you can anticipate. I did that for my daughter's medical examination also. Like asked like she's studying in the such and such college, we have repository of question paper. Can you frame a question paper of 2 hours duration with this is the multiple choice questions? It came out well. So it's a matter of actually acquaintance with the technology, acquaintance with the tool, and how to use it is something which is undefined at this moment. Probably we need to be cognizant about that, because this is at this moment there is an equivocality in this thing. We don't know whether it is actually moving towards this direction or that direction. You also mentioned about the creative space will get uncluttered. That's my thought, right? I mean, you do a lot of research now, probably you will get time for your thought process, and eventually you will get married to this technology. So I mean, there will be blended. I mean, even as we speak also, people are actually now, ChatGPT is a co-author in many stories. So you ask ChatGPT or such systems and say, this is a storyboard, I would want this character to be like this, which will come out. And it's a matter of actually conventions versus contemporary, and how do the contemporary and convention, there is both have values, and how do you blend it is something which is going to probably redefine the way of creativity, redefine the way of human living, redefine the way how do we approach studies, redefine the way of how do you approach assignments and stuff like that. I think I'm super hyper optimistic in that. It is going to define in a good way. The moment you try to discourage, it will probably kind of take away a lot of technology distancing, and then that will affect that kind of, I mean, that hesitancy in getting into the technology might affect the performance, and kids can't be in par with their pals, and then probably that will create conflict.
Thank you, sir, for that extremely enlightening and engaging conversation. I'm feeling super proud to think about you, who comes from a rural background from Kollam, being part of Trivandrum Medical College. Then you are also part of the academic faculty here. You worked in primary health centers. Then you did your master in public health and then became part of international organizations like WHO and PATH, and now you are working in AI. It has been a super wonderful dream story of a lifetime. And I'm extremely happy that you are able to clear a lot of doubts which so many doctors, medical students, and maybe even public may have about AI. So the crux of what Dr. Shibu Vijayan has told us today is that we cannot distance ourselves from technology. We need to skill ourselves in such a way that we can use this technology in the best possible way. And whatever technology comes, human brain would be necessary to control it, to modulate it, and to regulate it. So let us keep ourselves upskill, let us increase the skill of our students also, so that AI can also be put to the best use in the coming generation. Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.